everyone, this is Shamla. In this video, we are going to discuss about what is Spring Boot. Before going to Spring Boot, what is Spring Framework and why is it so famous? Now to understand this, let's go to the year 2000. So in that time, when we want to create an application in Java for enterprises, we have a lot of Java EE features and one of them is EJB. EJB is quite famous and it is one of the best technology available at that point of time. But the problem is, it is very difficult to manage them. Since we are dealing with entities, those are heavy. So that's where we got the concept of POJOs. Spring provides all the features of POJO. And it also provides the dependency injection, MVC, REST security. So that's why we can achieve any business purpose by working with Spring Framework. It also has the excellent facility by integrating it with other frameworks like Hibernate and Struts. Now, the problem is when you're working with Spring Framework, you will be working with big applications. When you're building big applications, you will need some external jar files. So that's one thing. You need external jar files, right? And what is the other thing? The other one is configuration part. So as a developer, I want to focus more on the convention part of it, not on the configuration stuff. I know we cannot eliminate the configuration completely, but at least we can try to focus more on the coding part. But Spring is good, but it mostly deals with the configurations. So what to do? Now, the people who implemented the Spring framework, they thought, okay, wait, so why don't we implement something for the developer so that they will be focusing more on the convention side of it. So that's where Spring Boot comes into the picture. Now, Spring Boot is not a replacement for Spring Framework. We are still working with the same framework. So if you see here, there is a developer, there is a framework, and you're still working with the same framework. And in between, you have the Spring Boot just to help you out. So what does Spring Boot say here? It says, hey developer, I know you want to work on a project, and Spring is the best framework to do it. So what do you need? You need some jar files, you need some configurations. Hey, don't worry. I will provide you the configuration and I will provide you the dependencies as well. Awesome, right? So the main idea of Spring Boot is it will give you a production-ready project. As soon as you create a Spring project, it is runnable. You can just deploy it on the server. It does nothing, but it will work. So when you wanted to do some manual configurations, right? How do you do it? So for that manual configurations, you do not have any XML files here. So those XML or configuration is required in the Spring framework. So now you have the auto configuration facility in the Spring Boot. Now let us assume like you're not working with Spring Boot project, you're working with Spring Framework, okay? So in Spring Framework, you want to build a web application and you want to deploy the application. So what do you need? You need a server. It can be either a virtual server or a cloud server. So you will install Linux OS in the server. So that's one thing, that's done, okay? You have Linux OS. Now, you want to install a web server or an app server. It can be Tomcat or Glassfish. So on the Tomcat again, you will have to deploy the WAR file, which is generated on your web application, right? So many layers, right? When you have so many layers in the Spring framework, all you need to do is deploy the application. Now we have something called microservices that is trending in the market. So through microservices, a lot of our work becomes easier. So that's where Spring Boot makes use of those microservices. It says, hey, you do not need to do all of those stuff. I will take care of it. All you need to do is you create an application and that application will generate a jar file. So Spring Boot doesn't deal with WAR files. It only deals with jar files. So that jar file, inside that jar file, you will have an embedded Tomcat server, which means you can run the application on any Java virtual machine. You do not even need a web server. It's awesome, right? So Spring Boot has a lot of features, but two of my favorites are, one is starter project. When you want to create an application, web application, for example, Spring Boot just says, okay, I will give you a dependency called Spring Boot Starter Web. Just use it and a web application is ready. Okay, now I want to create a JDBC application. Spring Boot gives you Spring Boot Starter JDBC. You can use that and you have a ready project. So the other important feature of Spring Boot is configuration. Since you have a lot of dependencies here, you do not actually need to configure all of those. Spring Boot actually have the auto configuration facility as well. But when you need more features, then you need to do some configurations. But all of the basic configuration is already handled by the Spring Boot. Now, so Spring Boot also deals with some property files. So when you want to do some manual configurations, you might be asking, is it possible in the Spring Boot that we can change some XML files and we can do some manual configuration? And the answer is no. Spring Boot doesn't deal with XML files. Then how? So that's why we have a special file called application.property file. You can just say change the server port, you can add, you can maintain different property files for all different environments like dev, SIT, production, and you can have different credentials for each of those. You can do a lot of stuff in application.property file. Quite simple, right? So Spring Boot also have other features like rapid application development feature. So with this, the development will be faster, and it also offers you in-memory database. It avoids a lot of boilerplate code, which reduces time and it also increases productivity. Actually, Spring Framework, in Spring Framework, to create a web application, you need a lot of dependencies. But on the other hand, with Spring Boot, with just one dependency, you can make an application work. So that is the reason testing will be easier due to less amount of code. I hope you got the basic idea of what Spring Boot is. Thank you for watching the video.